Hey guys, good to be back with you again. There was a post that I've linked to below on FM Scout just the other day, a list of features that they wanted to see for FM24. It's a long list. I know that they have a video about it as well. I like the idea. There are a couple things on the list that I like. There are some other things you can actually do today in Football Manager if you have the right editor data file or if you mess around a little bit with the editor yourself. I thought, though, that there were maybe 5 of these that I really wanted to bring out and that stand out to me as changes that Sports Interactive really needs to make in Football Manager. As you know from my videos, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of fancy editing and have a whole bunch of graphics and stuff on the screen, so apologies for that. We'll try to make this short so it's not too boring for you, and we'll just get right into it. So number 5 here on my list is women's teams. I didn't care much about women's football before, but after playing around with that really strange editor file with all the Thai teams made up of whatever pop stars and stuff, I realized that it would actually be really interesting to manage women's football. It would be interesting to see women playing against other women in these leagues that really do exist. In fact, it might be really interesting to see how different the game might be, or how different the relative experience and worth and value of different countries are, or different leagues, or things like that. I know that Sports Interactive announced, I think it was last year, that women's teams were coming to Football Manager. I would love to see this in the game. I especially would like it if you could have women's and men's teams playing like at the same time, just like real life. So in other words, you're a manager of this team here, and you can go manage a women's team on the other side of the planet afterwards for your next step in the save, and then go back to a men's team or whatever it is you want to do. That would be really cool. I really, really think that's a good idea. The more I think about that, the more I think that that's really the direction they need to go. And I know that when that announcement came out, there were a lot of people online who were saying, why are you doing this? We don't care about this. We don't care about that. But to be honest with you, as I look into it and as I think about it, I mean, it really is a cool thing. And this isn't just sort of like a simping thing or a, get a girlfriend thing or whatever. I mean, it actually would be pretty interesting. It would be a lot of fun. I feel like we're only getting half of the experience we could the way things are now. So that's number 5, women's teams. Number 4, this is big. Use artificial intelligence for interactions with the media and with players and with other NPCs in the game. That's really big. If they can make that happen, that would be excellent. I don't know if it's good enough to just use ChatGTP or not. I doubt that would work on its own, but we need to have a system that's similar where we can talk and we can say what we think, and we don't have to just choose from a bunch of canned responses and answers. Again, as I've said before, Football Manager at its core is a role-playing game, and we need to emphasize the fact that it's a role-playing game. That's the thing that gets people really locked into the game, and that makes it so that it really sticks. If instead we make it just a game with nothing but flat interactions, I mean, people aren't going to want to play it, or they're going to feel like they're sort of disconnected from what's really going on. So I really, really strongly recommend that Sports Interactive use artificial intelligence, if at all possible, for those things. Number 3, everybody's been asking for this one, is a stadium editor. Now, they're saying in there, make the stadiums look more realistic, make this look better, make that look better. Why don't you just make a stadium editor and let us do it, right? Because as it stands now, the stadiums are like, I don't know, they're totally whacked. Right? And now there are ways that you can edit stadiums in the pregame editor. I know about this. I've read about it. I haven't tried it myself. It's a little bit dicey. It's a little bit hard. There are limitations to what you can do. It would be great if we could take those limitations away, and if you gave it to the community and just let us do the stadiums. And the reason why is because people know what stadiums look like in their neck of the woods, and they can make it look realistic, make it look nice, or maybe not so nice. It would be great if you could do things you used to be able to do in the games, like have flares in the crowd, have different types of, flags or whatever, maybe introduce chanting and things like that in the sound and all of that. There are actually already people who have made those types of changes, at least when it comes to the sound. But the visual experience would be very, very nice if I were playing in Egypt and I felt like I were actually in Egypt and not in England, right? That would be really, really nice. So that is very, very high on the list. I'm actually really surprised that there's not a stadium editor, and I don't understand why. Number 2, this idea in that article is absolutely excellent, which is for a human manager skill tree, right? So if you played games that are strategy games, you played Paradox games, or if you played Civilization, you know what I'm talking about, right? You get this thing on the skill list, and then you can move on to that thing or this thing or the other thing or whatever. That's what the game needs for the managers. This is absolutely correct. That's exactly what it needs, right? Right now, you basically go get your badge, your coaching badge, and then you work up to the next badge and the next one, and that's how how it is. It's very, very linear. The linearity of this is nice, but if I'm going to manage in North Korea, right, and I am from Spain and I speak no Korean, I'm not going to go turn around and be like, well, thank you, Communist Board. I'm going to go get my next badge now if you say it's okay, right? No, I need to like learn the language. I need to deal with the culture. I need to deal with all of like the crazy stuff that goes on in society. I need to deal with the food. I need to deal with the fact that I don't have many things to spend my money on, or maybe the fact that I can only buy from, whatever, the expensive shop made for foreigners. So all the money that I take out of the economy goes straight back into it, or whatever. Make something like that up, right? That's the sort of thing I need to be worrying about. There should be choices like, well, do I go learn the language better so I can communicate with my players? Or do I go do this coaching course? Or instead of that, do I go do like this other thing, right? How satisfied am I with my life? Am I living close to the stadium? Am I living like an hour and a half away, right? That should have a limiting impact on how I play the game and the different choices that I can make and stuff like that. In other words, if I go in the game from one place, one country to another one, I want to really feel like this is a different cultural experience, right? Because if you've ever done this, and I have, if you've ever gone from one country to another for work or for travel or to meet your in-laws or whatever, there's a cultural difference. You might not feel it at first. You might think everything's the same, and then you go out and walk around and you're like, wow, everything's different. And even if I speak this language, I speak German, for example, if I go to, Stuttgart, they're going to speak differently than they speak in Berlin. And if I then go over to Vienna, they're going to speak differently than they spoke in Stuttgart, and it's still going to be a different cultural experience. And if I go over to Switzerland, I have no idea what they're saying because who knows what they're saying over there, right? It's just totally different and totally crazy, right? That's the sort of feeling you've got to have in game. We need more stuff like this where you go to a different place and suddenly the challenge becomes higher and you're at the risk of losing what's happening in the clubhouse. You have to find somebody there who has some respect, who you can actually communicate with. And if there's nobody there, then you're going to be your first goal in the transfer market. And then you've got to tell the board what's going on. You see what I'm saying? Once we start looking at this problem differently, all sorts of stuff opens up and the game becomes really interesting. And it feels, again, more like an RPG and less like a sort of click on this click, click, click fest, right? And that brings me to point number one, which is that the time between matches needs to be revamped. Everything needs to be redone and rethought. And the reason why is because right now Football Manager at its core is a click fest. There's part of the click fest that I like. I love going and doing scouting into players. I love doing research into stuff. I love learning about this thing and about that thing, right? I love learning about the rivalries and about this that's bad and that's bad and whatever, right? That stuff is really, really cool, and it's cool to have an engine where I can do that. But sitting around and having everything be driven by the inbox, and this came in and that came in, and then I click continue, and then I wait, and then I click continue again and stuff like that, it sucks. It's awful. It's really, really boring, right? They told us years ago, you might not remember this, but they told us that they were going to move away from the inbox-based system towards something else. Anything else would be nice. They haven't done it. And we still have the same thing where there's like this task and that task that has to be done. Look, there should be nothing in this game that should be a chore. Absolutely nothing should be a chore for the player. It shouldn't be like, oh, the week of training's over, you have to go pat the guy on the head so he has a good relationship with you. I know why it's there. That's not player interaction. That's a waste of time, right? The press conference is nice, right? I know it's realistic to have the press conference, but the way it is right now, it's a waste of time. It's just a bunch of clicking. That should get out of here. We shouldn't just have a bunch of clicking. We should have things that are bigger and better. Love to know what you think. There's other stuff that I haven't mentioned here, stuff like revamping training, right? I mean, training is so bad that Max at Evidence-Based Football Manager actually cracked the code, right? It's not very... What's the phrase for this? It's not something that sort of changes depending upon your team. It's not something that is malleable really in the game. It really is cardboard, and if you have the right min-max approach, you're going to get training right. There is a way to get it right? That's a problem. That shouldn't be in the game. Anyway, there's all sorts of other stuff we can talk about, but right there was my list of 5 things. So once again, it is we need women's teams. We need to use some sort of artificial intelligence for our interactions so that we're not just clicking on cardboard things because that sucks. We need a stadium editor because, like, really, guys? We need the human manager skill tree so that this game is fun again. And more than anything else, we need to get rid of having chores in between matches because that part is just, so inane. There should be more. It should be more of a sandbox. It should be more wide open. You should be able to do more things and not just have stupid stuff come into your inbox, right? I mean, because what happens is some of us, when we go to work, we're like, yeah, this email, that email doesn't mean anything. I just leave it unopened because I'm not going to waste my time. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.